Inside the walls of the Tower of London during the Tudor period, there was a horrifically savage contraption used which inflicts so much pain that it even killed. Those who were unfortunate enough to be tortured on the rack underwent a terrible ordeal, which resulted in some awful injuries and permanent problems. There were a significant number who were also executed after their ordeal on the rack, and some were taken to their deaths disfigured by the injuries caused by it. The rack led to the Tower of London developing a notorious reputation for suffering and pain, along with the executions that occurred there. But what actually happened on the rack, and why would someone find themselves on it? Join us today as we look at history's most brutal torture device, and remember to support our channel. Please make sure to subscribe. It was during the reign of the Tudor monarchs such as Henry VIII and Elizabeth I that the rack is most closely associated with. But it did have a longer history, which dates back to the ancient times. It's believed that the Greeks may have even used the rack first as a way of torturing slaves around 300 years BC, and the whole point of the device was to extract information. Herostratus, a man who was later executed for burning down the Temple of Artemis, was placed on the rack to find out more information about the burning of one of the wonders of the ancient world. Then during the Roman times, it was used by Emperor Nero. He faced an assassination attempt, and to extract more information from the conspirators, the rack was used, and it was even used on a woman. This helped to solidify Nero's brutal reputation as a feared leader. In Britain, the rack first emerged before the Tudor period, around the mid-1400s, and the Constable of the Tower of London at the time, John Holland, brought the device to the fortress. The rack became known as the Duke of Exeter's daughter, as Holland was the second Duke of Exeter. It was during this time that the rack became infamously used, and used to extract information during interrogations. As a device, the rack had a number of different versions created in different countries. In Europe it was used in the form of a ladder, where someone would be strung up to and stretched, but it usually had a wooden frame that was raised off the ground and was flat. A prisoner would then be placed on it, and at each end of the rack was a roller and rope and chains, where someone's wrists and ankles would be attached to. During the racking, the interrogators would ask a number of questions, starting off slowly, and then turning the rollers, which would cause tension and stretching on the prisoner's limbs. If the prisoner continued to refuse to answer questions and not hand over any information, the interrogators would then turn slowly the ratchet, and the stretching would continue. As the chains cranked and the victim was stretched more, the strain placed on the joints would be excruciating. The shoulders, elbows, knees and hips were placed under intense stress, and at times the joints would dislocate and separate out of their sockets, which was very painful. As medical care was poor during the Tudor times also, this could cause permanent disfigurement. The muscles would be stretched so much that the arms and legs may be so badly damaged that a person may never walk again, and there would be screaming heard throughout the Tower of London. The body would pop also, and cartilage and ligaments would snap, as would bones, as more pressure was exerted on the limbs. If a prisoner continued to refuse, they were continuously racked until they lost consciousness, or if the guards believed they had enough information, they would then stop, but the damage would already have been done. The rack was used alongside other torture methods too, for example the Scavenger's daughter. This was a device made by another constable of the tower, and was an A-frame which someone's head, arms and legs would be attached to. This would then swing, and the prisoner's body would contort and compress in bizarre and painful ways. When used alongside the rack, which was used to stretch, the compression device of the Scavenger's daughter would have been horrifically painful. Also, interrogators and guards whilst a prisoner was on the rack would perform other tortures such as pulling out toenails and fingernails, and also they would cut someone's body or even burn them with brands to get them to give over information. There was one shocking account of a woman during the Tudor period being racked for information. Anne Askew was a Protestant who was later burned at the stake for heresy. She was linked to a plot with Henry VIII's sixth wife, Catherine Parr, who herself was accused of being too religiously radical. To get Anne Askew to give over information about the Queen, she was brutalised on the rack and was punished so severely that she could not walk to her execution, where she was burned at the stake. She had to be carried on a chair and then was burned on this because her hips and shoulders had also dislocated, and the rack completely ruined Anne Askew and caused her great pain. To make things worse, when she fainted, she was revived a number of times to resume her torture, causing even more suffering. The constable of the tower himself had refused to torture her, as he believed it was wrong to subject a woman to such an ordeal, and whilst he left to speak to the king about it, Anne was tortured. Another account of torture on the rack was that of St. Nicholas Owen, who was a Catholic martyr brutally punished on it. He refused to give over any information about Catholic plots, and was racked so brutally that he actually died on the device, as he was tortured so severely. But the most famous person to be tortured on the rack was Guy Fawkes. He was caught under the Houses of Parliament along with a huge amount of gunpowder, and he planned to blow the king, James I to Kingdom Come, along with his government in the gunpowder plot. Fawkes was the one caught, and it was considered that he was part of a group, and to get him to give over the names he was placed on the rack. He was tortured so badly that he eventually did give over names, and his signature was completely undecipherable when compared to it when he entered the tower. Even the strongest of people would be broken by the rack, and it was a torture method which inflicted such pain and suffering. It helped the Tower of London to gain its notorious and barbaric reputation, and has gone down in history as the most famous torture method used. Often just the sight of the rack was enough for someone to give over information to the guards. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.